Good Thursday morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Dan Brown. We're off to a cool, comfortable start this morning, coming off of a nice day yesterday, the first day of summer. And of course, today is the first full day of summer. A lot of clouds around today. I do think we'll see a little sun in the morning. And you know, this afternoon, we're only thinking maybe a spot shower. The bulk of the day now looks like it's going to remain dry. But early afternoon, maybe a spot shower really at any point. But keep in mind, just about all day long, although there'll be quite a few clouds around, we're not expecting much in terms of rainfall. Temperatures will be cool. We're going to have an easterly flow. Highs today will top off probably upper 60s and lower 70s. A little bit of chance of a few showers as we go into the overnight tonight as a warm front moves on through. Humidity levels build tonight, and then for tomorrow, we'll have a shower in the morning. Some sun works on in. It'll be humid tomorrow. Dew points are coming up. A couple of showers in the afternoon. Isolated storm. Better chance of scattered showers and storms for the weekend. It's humid over the weekend as well. All right, let's check on today's top stories. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Dan. I'm Amanda Callahan. Here's your latest news update from Western Mass News. In Westfield, crews are looking for a missing kayaker in the area of Hampton Ponds. Mass State Police confirming a rescue mission is underway there. Multiple agencies responding around 7:30 last night to assist Westfield Police after a canoe resurfaced without a person inside. Officials are asking for the public's help. If you have any pictures or videos of Long Pond Road, Old Appermont Way, or the boat ramp area, contact Westfield Police. The Massachusetts National Guardsman accused of leaking classified documents on social media appeared in federal court in Worcester Wednesday afternoon. The 21-year-old smiling at his family as he walked into the courtroom in handcuffs. Last week, Teixeira was indicted by a grand jury on 6 counts of willful retention and transmission of national defense information. He is suspected of leaking national secrets on social media. He entered a not guilty plea for all 6 counts. People in Westfield are continuing their fight to legalize backyard chickens under a new ordinance proposed by a city councilor. That proposal was discussed Tuesday night during a meeting in front of the city's planning board, which ultimately voted in favor of that ordinance. They will meet again on July 6th.